So I've been talking about speed a little bit, and in the comments, someone pointed out a really interesting point from Sean Lane. And Sean Lane was a guy that in like 1993 was talking about chunking, and he was calling these things kernels. And I thought, yeah.
This channel is supported by TrueFire. TrueFire is an online library of lessons from some of my favourite players. There's thousands of lessons on there. You can use the promo code JNC40 to get 40% off of any of their courses.
I wanted to show you some of the things that I used to practice as a kid. That I thought I was practicing just for speed. But it had knock-on benefits of kind of visualization stuff. You've heard loads of people talk about this sort of stuff, and more recently, kind of me, I was checking out Sean Lane, but let's just talk about it a bit. So another kind of term for these kind of things might be sequences, another kind of thing might be permutations, but I think it's basically a thing at the heart of almost anyone who plays stuff fast. You basically have to take smaller ideas initially and practice those and work them into your playing. And this is actually transformative in quite a few ways. So not only is this kind of the route to being able to build speed, because without super repetitive patterns, I don't think you necessarily figure out the mechanics particularly well. There's too much to think about, so you kind of need these smaller ideas. But also these can be a really good way to illuminate kind of shapes across the fretboard and show you whether or not you know your scales. So let's dive into that. The intro there, I was kind of just improvising around over a backing track. You can grab that on Patreon, as well as the tabs that are going to go along with this lesson in particular. But yeah, £2 a month to check out the Patreon stuff, where I put on my backing tracks and then like the lick lessons and occasional chord melodies for the jazz stuff. Yeah, the first thing that this stuff was interesting to me for was purely in terms of speed. And the thing that Sean Lane was talking about in particular were groups of 6. And that kind of coincides really nicely with 3-note per string stuff. And if you don't know your 3-note per string scales, I think that is basically at the heart of almost anyone who like plays legato or kind of does quite a lot of the shred stuff, except for maybe like the pentatonic Eric Johnson, Zakk Wylde, Joe Bonamassa kind of school of thinking. A lot of the more modern players, and you know, Alan Holdsworth, 3 or 4 note per string stuff seems to be the way. And so if we're in G, the thing that I did quite a lot of, and I think John Petrucci talks about this, is you just do 2 strings at a time. And what does this teach you? Well, first of all, you got your 3 notes, and then you have to do a string skip, and that is the bit that slows people down or feels weird to start off with, right? So in the middle of that 6-note phrase, you have to start thinking about, okay, right, I'm going down, up, down, up, down, up. Or if I started on a upstroke, I'd be going up, down, up, down, up, down. In which case, you get this kind of different thing. There's definitely loads of videos on this sort of thing, where either you're going outside the string, or if you start with an upstroke, up, down, you're going inside the string to do that string change. And I think it's the string change which initially is kind of difficult for people with alternate picking in particular, but even legato, I guess, is still getting used to that feeling of kind of traversing the strings rather than kind of and being stuck in one place kind of. Anyway, right, so let's pick kind of three, this kind of thing. So the cool thing about the 3-note per string stuff is that you can take basically your whatever exercise thing you're doing, and you can quickly turn that into a thing which is going to take you all across the neck. So say for example, I was thinking, right, I've got this, I want to do 2 sets of string at a time, and you put together your little sequence or your permutation, and so we're just going to go all the way up or all the way down. So right, that's kind of part 1. We could go horizontal. Or back down. You know, as I'm trying to warm up, I'm going to be kind of thinking, right, let's just do this kind of slowly. Right, okay, or we could stay within the same scale position and then jump again, stay on the same string. So that works quite nicely. Right? You hear John Petrucci do that sort of thing quite a lot. That kind of thing. What about descending? And I think because I spent so much time doing this sort of thing, it's really quite baked into my head exactly what these shapes feel like, because I did these kind of things, chunking them, where you kind of have to quickly visualize what each part of the shape looks like. And kind of sequence them, that actually just now visualizing any of the major scale kind of shapes. I've not done this with other scale shapes particularly, and this is how I kind of feel like I know that this is part of what got me to visualize the major scale well. It's because I did this with the major scale. I've not done it with like harmonic minor or melodic minor so much, and I definitely don't see those scales as well or as quickly and improvising them as fluently. So I think this is kind of transformative in that way. Sean Lane also talked about going up in groups of 4. And being able to do that sort of thing and whatever speed you're trying to do this at, just kind of focus on what this feels like to do it. And it's not just useful for shredders, in my opinion. I think it's all about figuring out scales as you go, right? Doing that kind of thing, really helpful. Also, this is something else to think about. I was just trying this earlier. And you find these little funny bits of the major scale where it's like, right, I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do technique-wise there. So it's like I could either flatten out and bar, but I feel like in the heat of the moment, that's kind of a thing that feels a bit unnatural to me. Unless I bar on that finger there. So by sequencing through the scale, I'm also discovering ways that I can solve for the problems that occur, like when you've got this thing happening where it's like I need to play consecutive notes on the same string. So it's like, do I play with the same finger? All those kind of questions. It's kind of, although it's not maybe the most musical stuff, it is kind of the part of what makes up really fast lines, but it also does help with the like figuring out kind of a lot of things, like not only visualization, but also, you know, synchronization of the hands, as well as solving these physical things that pop up from time to time when we're playing, and it's like, right, I need to figure out a way to play, because that doesn't, I haven't got okay, on that. I think it still works best to kind of bar on there. But you see, like, just a bit of exploration, thinking, can I sequence through the scale? You could go up in kind of thirds. You could go up in fourths. And that's really kind of tricky. So not just simple kind of, but also kind of sequences. Something I don't get too much time to practice anymore, but I think actually these were things that really did help my technique early on, and are things that I think I could use more of, you know, instead of just all the time focusing on a really specific lick, because you know, when you're trying to do these things on the fly, when you figure out, can I visualize this? And also, can I solve for the technical problem? So I think that's why this kind of idea of chunking, practicing sequences through the scale, and all that sort of stuff is really, really beneficial. And all of that stuff there, as I was doing it, was helping me to visualize ideas in the major scale positions of G major as well, right? So it's kind of like a win-win where you've got your technique stuff going on, as long as you're thinking about it sensibly. But also you're figuring out kind of the mechanics of speed as you go and all that sort of stuff. I think it's definitely an important part of my development, so I kind of wanted to kind of do a bit of a video on that. I hope that was somewhat interesting or not. But you've heard people talk about it before, but kind of like the rationale of why we're doing it, I think makes sense to talk about as well. So I don't know, that's what I wanted to discuss today. Thanks for stopping by. Feel free to leave a comment if you've got other things that you practice that you thought were really beneficial to your playing, so that other folks can check that out. But yeah, that's what it was. Cheers.